Hey, what's up guys? Tyler here with Secure Team. Today I want to give you an overview of three of my favorite and some of the most mysterious alien sightings and happenings and cases of paranormal activity that have ever been documented. Now, the documentation on all three of these sightings contain enough data that we would have to create 10 hour-long videos to get through them. So we will do our best to describe each case, after which we will allow you to go out and do your own research when you have free time. So without further ado, let's get started. The Valentich disappearance is an extremely mysterious cold case where a young man by the name of Frederick Valentich disappeared while flying his single-engine Cessna airplane on October 21st, 1978. So, Mr. Valentich had left Victoria's Morabin Airport at about 6 p.m. and was flying this light single-engine Cessna airplane over the Bass Strait, heading for King Island, off of Australia's coast, when he suddenly began to witness a strange aircraft following him, and directly before he and his plane completely vanished into thin air, never to be heard from or seen again. Now, what you are about to see is the radio transcript taken from an audio tape between Frederick and air traffic control. So we will slowly scroll through that for you and continue on with what happened afterwards. So, the communication ended, and afterwards there was an extensive search mounted through air, land, and sea, which was carried out until October 25th, where no trace of him or his plane was ever found. Now, an oil slick was discovered on October 22nd, about 18 miles from King Island, which was his stated destination. However, the oil slick was, quote, not established as having any connection with Frederick's plane. And the Bureau of Air Safety Investigation released its findings in May of 1982, stating that, quote, the reason for the disappearance of the aircraft has not been determined, and that the outcome was presumed fatal. Now, since this disappearance, there have been a number of theories as to what happened that day, but as you saw from the transcript, he described a shiny metallic object following his plane, maneuvering, almost playing tag with him, as we have seen happening with planes during World War II, where the pilots again have testified that they were followed by these strange objects. And at one point, in this case, the object was flying directly above Frederick's plane, and he could see the reflection of his plane in the bottom of this metallic object with lights on the bottom of it. Now, since then, as I said, there have been many theories as to what's happened, and as usual, when these abduction cases occur, we are told that, well, maybe he was just a nutcase, and he faked it all, and committed suicide, ramming his plane down into the ocean. However, this is merely a cover-up of what happened that day. The transcripts do not lie, and it's one of the most mysterious cases that I've ever had the pleasure of researching. Another very mysterious case that there has even been a film loosely based on that goes by the same name was a ranch in northern Utah that still exists today that has been plagued for hundreds of years by bizarre paranormal activity, with reports of strange aircraft, black triangular UFOs, cattle mutilations, cattle abductions, strange animals, owls, wolves that presumably were aliens taking the form of these forest animals seen on the ranch. And for many years, this ranch remained largely vacant. Now, one of the earliest attempts to document what was going on at this ranch began in 1951 when a local science teacher named Junior Hicks spotted a large flying object in the sky over the ranch, which was also seen by the students of his elementary class. At this point, the science teacher began researching and documenting over 400 different accounts of paranormal and alien sightings of alien activity happening in the area over Skinwalker Ranch, dating back more than 5 decades. Now, even the local Indian population has for many years stated that this land is cursed and they will not step 1 foot near it. So after being abandoned for years, the Sherman family took control of the property in 1994 to start their own cattle ranching business. And of course, it wasn't soon after that that they also began experiencing this paranormal activity, seeing UFOs with strange lights, over 80 cattle mutilations and killings, voices coming from thin air, inanimate objects flying around their home, UFOs sitting above the land, and within 2 years, the family fled the property. Now, a very interesting thing that happened on the first day that they were moving into this ranch is what has become known as the unkillable wolf. So they were moving in to this property when they saw a massive wolf sitting in a field watching them. The wolf suddenly walked up to them, and it was almost as if it was a long-lost pet of theirs. The wolf displayed no signs of being scared of the Sherman family. Shortly after that, the wolf ran over and grabbed a baby calf and began killing it. At this point, Terry Sherman, the husband, grabbed an axe and began striking at the back of the wolf's head and body with these axe blows. And the wolf did not budge and it did not drop the baby calf. So then the husband then went and grabbed his .357 Magnum revolver and shot the wolf in the side, which again left the wolf unfazed. The wolf did not bleed, it did not move, it did not drop the baby calf. So Mr. Sherman ended up shooting this wolf 6 times before it finally dropped the baby calf, and slowly and unfazed by the axe blows and these 6 .357 Magnum rounds that had just been shot into its body, began slowly walking off into a field before disappearing. Now, the family tracked the wolf's footprints in the mud before running into a dead end when the tracks completely stopped, and it was as if the wolf had vanished into thin air. So again, a very interesting story that I highly suggest you research and as well watch the film based off of what happened at that ranch. Lastly, we want to talk about the Barney and Betty Hill case, which happened on September 19th, 1961. Now, Betty and Barney Hill were a couple who were on their way home who were abducted by a UFO and what is now become known as the Hill abduction, where the couple had stated that they had been kidnapped for a short time by a UFO that flew and hovered above their car and abducted them. Now, there has been a massive amount of documentation on this sighting and abduction that you will have to research as, again, it would take 10 more videos just to talk about this case alone. But nonetheless, the Hills were driving back to Portsmouth from a vacation in Niagara Falls, and this is in New Hampshire, when they observed a bright light, an object over the moon, coming from the moon, that slowly descended down upon them. Now, at one point, they stopped their car and got out. The husband even got his pistol out of the trunk to keep on him as this object descended down to them. Now, as it got closer, they got back into their car and continued heading slowly down the highway, watching the object with binoculars, but eventually had to stop their car when the object flew directly over top of their car and stopped. And they described the lights coming from this UFO as so bright that it filled up their entire windshield. And Mr. Hill viewed through his binoculars 8 to 11 beings watching down from a window on this craft. It was at this point that both Mr. and Mrs. Hill began experiencing a loud buzzing and vibrational sound that caused them to lose consciousness. Now, after they woke up, they had found they had moved over 35 miles away with no memory of how they had gotten there. They even reported their sighting to a local Air Force base in the area and gave a 6-hour interview. And later on, through sleep hypnosis, were able to bring about more details of this lost time that happened that day. So again, it's a very amazing sighting. All 3 of these happenings are some of my favorite topics of research, and there are many more like it, and we will definitely do more videos on them. So let me know what you guys think. Check out the movies that are based on these sightings, and when you have some free time, head out and research them more in depth. So, very strange times indeed. There are a lot of things out there that have been covered up, things that have happened in years long since past, abductions, sightings, disappearances that are still unexplained to this day. Do stick around with us as we continue our research into this subject and hopefully bring more light to it and open more minds and bring more people to the study and into this amazing community that we've created here. So be sure to share, like, and subscribe on your way out. I really appreciate it. And as always, stay tuned because we've got a lot more coming.